Dan the wheelman here. So I was up at like 5 a.m. Couldn't get back to sleep. My mind started to wander as one's mind does when you can't sleep and it's 5 a.m. and the rain is pounding your bedroom window. What if I wanted a 3-row SUV, you know, full size, room for 6 or 7, but one that was a little more off-road centric? What are my options? How about the Ford Expedition Tremor? Okay, sure, but you're over 100 grand for that. Chevrolet Tahoe. Okay, starts at 80 in Canada, but if you want the Z71 off-road package, you're over 100 grand again. Aha! Used or pre-owned Land Rover Defender or Range Rover. Maybe you're onto something now, but to get one in any state of nick for less than 60 grand, you're going back to 2018, 19, 20, even 2017. And then, well, you've got a Land Rover Defender or Range Rover from 2018, 19, 20, or even 17, and all the foibles that come with that. But then, as what also tends to happen when you're laying in bed and the rain continued to pound, as it's doing right now, actually, the proverbial light bulb went off. Not a real light bulb, because then I'd wake up my wife and that wouldn't go so well. I might have a solution. This is the 2026 Hyundai Palisade, but it's not just any Palisade, oh no. This is an all-new trim for the Palisade, not just for the Palisade actually, for the entire Hyundai lineup. This is the Palisade XRT Pro, and it might be the answer to my early morning musings. I would say, absolutely, positively it does. This is a very cool looking truck. You've got the black 18-inch off-road style wheels. The front end is more pronounced than it is on a standard Palisade with this insert right here. Plus, you've got like the full width light bar, which is cool. The recovery hooks in red, different lower valance on the front and on the back to give you better approach and departure angles. All Palisades come with these new stacked light signatures for your DRLs. Your headlights are here. That looks very cool. I love this coppery, bronzy, earthy, whatever you want to call it. Very off-roady though color. Go through mud, you'll never even see it on that. Fantastic. The blacked out Hyundai logo is cool to match the blacked out wing mirrors and the blacked out roof rails, plus the frame around the windows. This is a really, really cool looking truck, honestly. And I think it can hold a candle on the styling front to pretty much any of those vehicles I mentioned in the intro. Might even beat most of those that I mentioned in the intro. The Range Rover is pretty sweet looking. But speaking of the Range Rover, if you look at the taillights there, they're very, very previous generation Range Rover-esque. So it's kind of ticking a lot of boxes when it comes to styling. I love it. Storage? Yeah, there's quite a lot in here. Almost 2,500 liters when you fold the rear seats in the back there. Up here, you've got a pretty deep central panel here. This isn't that big, wish that was a bit bigger, but at least it's there and easy to access. Since the shift lever's here, it doesn't have to be here. You could use this for storage as well. Wireless charger, a couple of cup holders, storage on the floor down here. Again, thanks to there not being a shifter, you can have that. And there's even a little shelf here you can put sunglasses on. 2 different water cup holders in the door, I should say. One perfectly sized for your average Coke bottle, one a little bit bigger for larger water bottles. The one thing is, there's like 4 inches of surface area here, but there's no lip, so you can't store anything up there. I wish they'd put just a little lip. That's all it would have taken. You would have been able to store stuff up there, and that would have been great, but alas, you can't, which is too bad. And also, no sunglasses holder. Kind of a bummer, so you gotta use, I guess, the area down here for that. And that's just the front seat. Let's have a look at the back. And the back is super roomy too. Lots of leg room, lots of headroom. This seat is fit for my 6'3" frame, so even then, tons of space. You've got your AC charging there. You've got USB-C ports in the seat backs, which is nice. And one of my favorite bits, a little bin down here for storage. This is why this bin in the front isn't quite as deep as it would be in some other cars in the segment, because they got to leave room for this one here, which is understandable, and that's pretty cool. In the doors, you've got, again, a nice high mount cup holder, and right behind that, there's this bin that's perfectly shaped for a smartphone, for example. Even though these seats are high mounted, I can't believe how much space I have, and that's fantastic. I've also got my climate controls, all hard buttons up here. That's fantastic. And then you've got the 3rd row of seating too, which in this vehicle really isn't too bad. Accessing it is fine. You can go through the middle here like this, and or you can hit this button on the shoulder of the seat there. It tilts and slides, so if you have a child seat there, you can still use the feature, and you can access it that way. It's not bad back here. It's not super roomy. It is a 3rd row in an SUV, not a minivan, but I've got lots of features back here. 2 cup holders on each side, USB-C port on each side as well. Yeah, not hugely roomy. I wouldn't want to have adults back here for too long, But I mean, this used mainly for kids anyway. A third row in an SUV like this, mostly kids. So adults will survive back there, ouch, but not for too long, mostly for the kiddos, the third row. Dual digital displays for your gauge colors or infotainment here, 12.3 inches each, curved a little bit towards you, which is really nice. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, or if you prefer, you've got 3 USB-C ports up here, and they're all 100 watts, so you can charge like a laptop computer. I have adaptive cruise control, I have lane centering assist, lane keep assist, and I've got one of my favorite features in Hyundai, Genesis, Kia products. You've got the blind spot cameras in the gauge cluster. So when you activate your indicator, the left hand, to the left, for example, the left-hand side gauge becomes a blind spot camera, and if you activate your indicator to the right, the opposite is true. I think that's great. Nice, high def backup cam, which on the XRT model gives you a forward and down facing camera as well for when you're cresting a ridge while off-roading. You can't see what's going on the other side. All you've got in your windshield is the wild blue yonder, or in my case today, the somewhat muted gray yonder, and you're good to go. So tech-wise, yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. What I don't love, though, is I've got a haptic touch display here. It's not even haptic, actually. It's just a touch display for my steering wheel heaters, my seat heaters, other climate controls. There are a couple of knobs to set your climate level, which is good, but for everything else, you got to use a touch panel, which I don't love. Doesn't work great with gloves on, doesn't work great when you're driving, so you have to look down to see what you're doing. I don't love that. The media buttons, though, up here, those are all hard buttons, as is your volume knob and your tune knob. Speaking of buttons, you've got one toggle here that does the job of 2 toggles in other cars. It's got a button right above it marked drive and terrain. When the drive word is lit up, then it changes your drive. Eco, normal, sport. Press that button, now it's your terrain, snow, mud, and sand. And those are all here, so you don't have to have 2 separate sets of controls, which helps reduce clutter. The final bit of tech, which I'm actually a big fan of, all this hard buttons down here beside my left knee, which is for my auto start stop, my trunk. It's all down here. No need to hunt around on the door for that stuff. In here. It's all there. If you do want to play around with some of the more advanced driver aids, though, like your lane keep assist and so on, that you do have to do through the display. Does it have fancy lights? Well, yes, it does. In addition to the digital gauge cluster, which changes color a bit depending on what drive mode you're in, there's some ambient lighting in here too. You've got a preset colors to choose from, or there's a swatch if you want to customize it yourself. You get some lighting on the front of the dash here. You get some over on the doors. I think that's really cool, and it's a very nice high-class touch. Still works. I wouldn't know. This is soda pop. Oh, the juice of the car. Got it. Well, it's got a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6, good for 287 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. All-wheel drive, of course, and an 8-speed automatic transmission. No CVT stuff here, just a proper 8-speed auto. And forward progress is pretty good. There's good acceleration. That's one of the benefits of a naturally aspirated motor. You don't have to wait for that turbo to spool up. And plus, you've got 8 closely spaced ratios. So power delivery is actually really, really nice. And not only that, the XRT Pro comes standard with a trailer hitch, and it can tow up to 5,000 pounds. So not only does that engine help you make passes at speed, cruise comfortably in town with pretty good fuel economy as well, because again, you don't have to rev it too high to get that power. You can just lope along easily. It has the capabilities of all that towing as well. So the juice, pretty good. Of course, you're not going to get the same kind of oomph as you might get from a Tahoe with a V8 motor, for example, or of an Expedition with a twin turbocharged V6 motor. Not quite as manic when it comes to acceleration, but more than enough for what most people driving a vehicle like this are going to need. Plus, it's a really smooth engine, which just, again, better fuel economy, keeps things comfortable. 87 octane all day, every day, and you won't see a lick of difference. Ah, the beauty of a big naturally aspirated V6. Love it. Well, let's see. It's got 20.5 degree approach angle, 22.4 degree departure angle, 18.3 degree breakover angle, dual 12.3 inch displays, 7 USB-C ports, 10 cup holders, seating for 7, 287 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque, 8-speed automatic transmission, and a partridge in a pear tree. Complicated enough for you? Well, let's give it a try, shall we? I have an ELSD, an electronic limited slip differential, but I don't have locking diff. I don't have low and high range, nothing like that. But I do have the terrain modes, and so I've got it in snow as we go across this kind of deep gravelly road here, and forward progress is good. There's these kind of mini potholes all through here, some washboarding as well, but this thing goes through it no problem. I will say though, I recently actually tested the Subaru Outback, the all new one, and I found its suspension to be just a little more compliant than this. This one's still a little on the firm side, feels a little trucky, so there's a little more kind of reverberation through the cabin when you go over these bumps. It's not a deal breaker by any means, and I'm having no problem with traction or anything like that, but it is something you want to keep in mind. But I would have no problem taking this XRT on, you know, back country driving to the trails, all that kind of stuff. It's got an extra inch of ground clearance, which is good, which is what you want for this kind of work. Or the kinds of off-roading that 99.999% of the people that buy one of these are going to do, absolutely you can have it. Not going to want to go rock crawling, but you're not buying this to go rock crawling either. You're buying this to go up to the cabin comfortably, handle some snowy weather in Canada, and like I said, to go to the backcountry hiking trail or campsite. So in the end, my morning prayers were kind of answered by this. I love how it works off-road just enough for a vehicle like this to work off-road. It's comfortable inside, good features. I like the styling a lot. It drives well off-road, drives well in the city, on the highway, and costs like 60 grand, just under 60 grand for a brand new car with all of those bells and whistles. I just think it's great. It's a vehicle that is so great to drive around in a rainy, gray day in Vancouver, and it's great to drive around that. You know it's going to be fun to drive most of the year as well. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to this quick look at the 2026 Hyundai Palisade XRT Pro. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. If not, no hard feelings, of course, and thanks so much to everyone who has subscribed. I really appreciate it. You can follow me on Instagram at Dan the Wheelman, on Blue Sky at Dan the Wheelman. Of course, keep it locked to the Dan the Wheelman YouTube channel. Always fun new stuff going up here, there, and everywhere. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. This is Dan the Wheelman signing off from the Hyundai Palisade XRT Pro, the vehicle that I hope will help me sleep better tonight and tomorrow morning as well.